until recently with the invasion by Israel into Lebanon and the problem with Saddam Hussein in Afghanistan. So we have to look historically as to what, and again, when you say what is the positive aspects, education, but on the downside, not knowing enough about our history and our relationship in the sense that we've had, over the years, more than 8,000 students from Indonesia and Malaysia in our Iowa colleges and universities. Now, we tend to focus so much on the lack of skills, social skills, within this small region of Saudi Arabia, in the Gulf region, part of Iran, part of Afghanistan. But we fail to recognize there have been more women Muslim leaders from Indonesia, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from Turkey, than we have ever had a lady leader in our own country. So when we talk, you tell me how I'm doing on time, but I don't want to get too much into the historic aspect. The only reason I bring this up, I've thankfully worked and traveled and taught in more than 90 countries. After the Peace Corps, I literally traveled around the world, and I was invited by President Obama to have dinner at the White House 6 weeks ago for what they call the iftar dinner. There were only 38 of us. I was selected to sit at President Obama's table. And we talked for about 45 minutes, and one of the things he asked me about the Peace Corps was how many countries I've been to. He said, I heard you've been to a lot of countries. And I said, and I named the countries, of more than 90-some. One of the last things I'll show you here is a picture here. This is an international Peace Corps calendar. And I took this picture, I have 1 minute left, I took this picture, and this has to do with education. And President Obama said, you've been through so many of these countries, what does this mean to you? I said, what it means to me is that 15 years ago we had thousands of Peace Corps people around the world, where today we have military people in 2 countries that far exceed the peacekeepers and the educators that we ever had. Now, in closing, my question goes back to education. Why could Peace Corps people be in all of these Islamic countries without ever being harmed, raped, kidnapped, molested, and welcomed as isolated individual Peace Corps people working in virtually every Islamic country in the globe, where we do not have them today? So the Islamic country has not been a fearful adversary of the United States. So I thank you. I think we have some questions later, but we have friends and resources, educators, doctors in virtually every Islamic country in the world. We have virtually every food concept of the United States represented. So these countries are not fearful of us, and they are not adversarial. We just have to learn how to turn adversarial relations into positive relations. Thank you.
Last but not least, another Iowan, Mr. Luai Amro. Mr. Luai is a graduate of Central College in Bella, and he did his graduate work here at Drake and at the University of Iowa. Mr. Amro works at Principal Financial Group, and he is currently the Assistant Director of Sourcing. Most importantly, Mr. Amro currently serves as President of the Islamic Center of Des Moines, the largest Islamic organization in the state of Iowa. Mr. Amro, you have the floor.
Assalamu alaikum, bismillah wa salatu wassalamu alaykum. Well, everybody talks about their parents, and that's a great story. So I went a little bit further. I brought my mom along. It's great to hear the panelists talk. I mean, all of them touched on a great and critical points that we feel it's been challenging us here in the United States. When I was thinking about this last night, I'm trying to put my thoughts together. Start putting the challenges, and I start listing the opportunities that we have in the United States. And I just quickly got to realize what makes this country great is what? Is a challenge could be turned to an opportunity in a heartbeat. There is nowhere else that you can have this challenges presented to you if you treat it right. And if you approach it in the right direction, in the right way, in the right mindset, you can turn it to an opportunity. I listed two challenges, and I thought these may be, in my mind, my personal opinion, will be the biggest challenges that Muslims have in this country. And in the same time, there are opportunities for us. The first challenge that I thought it would be, and that is what I call it personally, is deceptive forces or voices, if you will. What do I mean by that? Simply it means voices and forces are talking and presenting who we are, or talking about Islam, without having the background, or the talent, or the skill, or the education, or the authenticity to be talking about that. That is the biggest challenge for us. If you open the TV, as Muslims, if you open the TV and watch the channels, you will see all these so-called scholars talking about who we are, talking about me, talking about my kids, talking about my parents, and they don't know anything. And to me, when I'm going through the checkpoints, it's like, do they really know who we are? And that's what I mean. Now, some of these people are just saying this, some of them few maybe, for a certain agenda they might have. They're driving a political agenda. And that's wrong for us, and it's hurting us as Muslims in this country. But also there are some people who will stand up and say, and from the Muslim community, and start speaking about our religion, and what we believe, and what's right, and what's wrong, and what we should be doing, and what we should not be doing. And that's driven out of lack of knowledge. And both forces, both sides, are forces that are hurting us as Muslims. So that is, to me, in my personal opinion, the biggest challenge we have. Now, how is that an opportunity? In the United States. In the United States, when I hear these forces, it's presenting an opportunity for somebody like me, who I am not claiming to be a scholar in Islam at all, but I'm saying an opportunity to stand up in front of an audience like you and saying, this is who we are. This is what we believe. This is who we really are. And give you an opportunity to choose, and to give you an opportunity to hear two sides of the story and the presentation. And that's what it is. It's what I thought would be the biggest challenge and an opportunity for us. The second challenge is the feeling that we always have to defend. Always we feel in the Muslim community that we always have to defend our Islam, defend our ways, we need to get closer, and we need to get too closer. And you know what? We feel for you to understand who we are, we need to keep defending ourselves. And it's taken so much effort. And it's utilizing so many resources that Muslim communities throughout this country. And it's just like we're spinning our wheels. Now, how is that an opportunity? Simple. You know, we are, as Muslims in this community, we have the obligation to tell people who we are and build the bridges between us and every other civilization. We have the opportunity and the responsibility and the obligation as Muslims to speak up and say, this is our Islam, this is what we believe, this is who we are, and bring the bridges between us and civilization. We like the United States, we have the allegiance for the United States, but we love our Islam. You know what? When we are saying we do not need a different Islam. We love Jefferson, but we love the Prophet Muhammad. We love the Declaration of Independence, but we have our Quran. And we believe it's the right way. And we believe it tells us the best way to live our lives. We do not need to change. For me personally, if I believe that my religion needs to be adjusted and be amended and be revised because of time, then it's not perfect. Then why should I follow something that's not perfect? You know, the Prophet Muhammad came and he lived his life 1400 years ago. Absolutely. His time is completely different than ours. But the religion is not a time, it's timeless. We believe that Islam is for everybody at any time, if they choose it. It's the best fit. But the thing is, do we understand it correctly? Do we approach it correctly? Do we know what it is? You know, there are a lot of misunderstanding and misperception. And you know, there are some critical questions that we as Muslims, we have to answer. And we need to be able to answer them correctly. And we need to before we start answering this, we need to be able to educate ourselves. Educate ourselves personally first about what our religion is. You know, we hear about this, the right of woman and the vote of a woman is compared to a man, and how is a woman is a half of a man. You know, I heard this since I came to the United States. And I heard it from everybody else. And you know, if I was an outsider, outside of Islam, looking at Islam, and I look at this point and I say, what kind of fair, what kind of justice, what kind of fairness, what kind of religion, that separates men and women and makes men better than women. But that's not the case. Absolutely not the case. Now, why do I say that? I always say that don't look at what people do. Look at the source of your religion. We have two sources of our religion. We have the Quran and we have the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's way. And this is what we go back to. In the last minute, I just want to say, and there are a lot of examples, but let me just touch base on this half a vote thing. You know, if you go back to the Quran, you know, the Quran asking the situation or the ayat or the verses where the Quran mentioned there is a need for a witness. It was mentioned 5 times. 5 times in the Quran. You know, the only time that the Quran was specific about how many men and how many women, it was 1 time. In Surah Al-Baqarah, the longest surah we have in the Quran. And it was specific for a specific situation, and it was for financial needs. And there was a specific need for it. But all 5 of them, the rest of the 4 times, there was no specific. You know, Ramadan, we Muslims, we believe that we fast in the witness who sees the moon. Now, when the Quran says, a woman, if it witnesses the moon, we will fast. We don't say we need 2 women. We say we need 1 woman or one man. You know what? There are situations where a woman witness is better than a woman man. There is actually a situation where, you know, that a woman witness is a must and you can't accept a man as a witness. When you are burying a woman, when somebody is there giving her shahada, when somebody is burying her, you cannot choose a man if there is a woman who's a Muslim. That's what the situation. Now, why do we have this? It's a lack of understanding. And the best thing that happened to me in this country, you know what? It got me so close to my religion that I understand it a lot better than I did when I was back home.
Now we will take 4 questions for Dr. Zafar. If you prefer to send your question to the moderator, you may do so. Yes, sir. Please step to the microphone. Now 4 questions for Dr. Zafar.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Awuzu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. I said, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, I seek refuge with Allah from the shaitan, the rejected enemy. That's what Muslims are supposed to say before they enter anything. And I got several questions. Isn't the oldest man... What? Okay. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was illiterate until the angel Jibril came to him and commanded him to speak Iqra. I guess it was the same for me, Abdur Rahim Kashif. I mean, I didn't know. Isn't it true that he was illiterate and that all mankind is illiterate until they learn how to speak? Yeah.
You know, I'm going to defer that to Luai.
Are you?
It's stating a fact. I mean, in fact, basically saying Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was illiterate. He didn't know how to read or write, and that's what it meant. But is all mankind is illiterate? Absolutely not. I mean, there are people who, at the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they knew how to read or write. That's what illiterate means. So that wasn't the case.
Yeah.